Good afternoon, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here with today's Monday's Musings to look at the energy for the week. I'm late, but then I'm not late. It's all dramatically overemphasised. So today I've noticed that it's World Theatre Day and I just want to take a moment to say thank you for this culture, this expression, this way of playing our lives out as a film, as a play, as a song, this way of creating with what is occurring for us. It feels really important to acknowledge the difference between something that we enjoy watching, something we enjoy taking part in, and something that we are just being dragged into the drama of. It feels really, really important this week to be aware of that. In regards to timing, okay, so I'm a big fan of divine timing. One, I'm a Leo card astrologically, and I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm a midwife. That's what matters. I'm a midwife. Now this week it really feels relevant and to bring to light who you are to your core and to really stand in that, to really honour and acknowledge that and the impact, the effect that it has on you and those around you. So for me, one of the biggest aspects of midwifery, other than them constantly moving hands that I try to sit on and not interfere, the biggest aspect of midwifery is timing and knowing how it has to be individual. It has to be right for the person that is creating. It has to be right for everything that is going on. It has to be safe. So I'm not late. I'm safe. And perfectly timed for whenever you may watch this. So with that in mind, thank you for watching this. Anything that I share with you is to be taken with a degree of discernment. It's either for you or it's not. And that's the other thing I really, really feel needs to be focused on this week and life in general. So we have the aspect of timing, knowing that things shift when it's right for you. We also have the aspect of knowing what is relevant for you, what relates to you, and more importantly this week, where it relates to within you. Is it the old drama being triggered? Is this something that you want to continue watching play out in your life? Has the time come for you where the curtains are now ready to be closed on that particular chapter? Now I share this because the reason that this video isn't done in the morning, hasn't been done in the morning. I'm trying to find a different way of saying it's late. The reason this video has come out when it has come out is because I've just spent the morning at a talk by a dear friend of mine. She has a community centre and runs talks at community centre. And this was a talk about seeing energy, absolutely incredible, by Dave Sharman, I think his name may be. Do I have his? Let me have a look. Feels quite relevant to share as and when we can. No, that's someone else. Okay, there was also a wonderful lady there called Hattie's Holistic Healing, and she runs a positive living group in Hamble as well. So it feels quite important this week to share what you're being asked to share, to what you're actually being asked to share, not what you think you're being asked to share. And that feels really relevant. What am I sharing and where am I sharing from? Is this what's actually being asked of me? And to actually draw a line in what no longer wants to play out in our lives. So it's not even just about us not wanting it, it's about it no longer wants to play out in our life, to let it go now with gratitude and ease and grace. So I went to this talk today and it was on seeing energy, which I'll come back to in a minute. But the reason that I went was I just received a letter to say that I was not going to receive student loans to do my counselling course because the qualifications I've got are actually higher than the one I was trying to achieve. And that's something important as well this week. Recognising what's already under our belt, acknowledging it, standing in it for what it's actually worth, and perhaps not seeking additional unnecessary qualifications outside of what we already know. It really feels like key this week. The other thing with that is, although I'm sad, I also know that the time isn't right. And I've known that for a while. I've known that for a good 3 or 4 months, actually, that the time isn't right. And to trust that So the moment I did that this morning, the moment I let go of that, and just to trust that what will be with that, another opportunity came in, an opportunity that had been lacking in the background actually, to go to this talk. And that's where I ended up today. It helped that I pulled the Fool card this morning and the Ten of Cups. So, you know, I'd already acknowledged that I was going to just, whatever opportunity came, I was going to take it, knowing that it is all a step towards my happiness and the happiness that I share with the world. Again, that feels poignant this week. We may not know the steps that we're taking. We may not know where they are leading, but unless we take them, they're not going to go anywhere. So if you feel drawn to do something, the time is right. Okay, go for it. Just take that one step, you know, and trust that the next will lead you on and lead you on and lead you on. So one of the final things I noticed at the talk today, it was absolutely incredible. And for those that don't know, I do have a lot of physical diseases in my body. And we were going to look at our own energy. So I was expecting to see lots of different colours and blockages and, you know. But actually I was quite surprised. I saw the colour of so much shifting already. And what I'm getting at here is when I finally open my eyes to my soul's potential, my soul's image of myself, which feels like key this week, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I wasn't as bad as I thought I was, physically, emotionally, you know, all of it. And that feels really important if you take nothing else from this video. So my dear friend at the end of the talk kind of put me on the spot and suggested that I tell everyone in that group, all my elders. I felt very respectful and very I just felt too young. I just felt too young, which is going to be something that comes up this week. And, you know, it's something I used to feel as a midwife. I'd think, gosh, this is like humble. I'd feel very humbled. And I felt that today, and it's a beautiful feeling. But of course, that brings up our insecurities. Like, oh my God, can I really talk about these things with these incredible elders? Anyway, I actually looked at what had been written as a write-up for what to expect when I do the talk. And it just blew my mind how other people see us. And if only we could see ourselves through the eyes of those that truly appreciate us. If only we could see ourselves in a more appreciative way for what it is we do and where it is we are, actually. It feels like that this week is going to be the key to just shift those final acts, if you will, or reenactments. So my dog's just coming out, so we'll see if... Oh no, he's gone back in. So with that in mind, let's look at the energy and how to best navigate it, because it's one thing to see the potential. It's another thing to know how we can best make the most of that. Okay, and really looking at where that comes from. Do we believe that we're not? You know, we can only receive guidance. What we do with it is up to us. And there really isn't any judgment there other than the judgment that we put on it ourselves. So this week in particular, divine timing, really something really has to relate to you. It is a great opportunity to let things go. It is a great opportunity to no longer allow things to play out in a way that doesn't appeal to us anymore. However, if we're not quite there yet, if we can't quite see ourselves through the eyes of the divine or our soul or through gratitude and appreciation, if we're not quite there yet, that's okay. No judgment there this week, step by step. As long as we're working towards what we're trying to achieve, we'll always be in the right direction. So with that in mind, yes, the cards that I thought about today, I was going to use the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot. All I hear is, why are you going to talk about what you were going to do? That feels like key. Don't spend too much time talking about what you could have done, what you were going to do. Really refocus that energy into what you actually are doing. That is monumental this week, and I can really feel that in my chest. So I was going to use those. I was then going to use the Mayan Tarot. Now, why was I going to use all these different cards? Because I can relate to them all. Just like us all this week, we will be able to relate to everything that's going on, okay? But it is about deciding which show we want to actually imagine, which show we want to actually envision, which show we are willing to turn up for, which show we are willing to buy the ticket for, you know, and attend and show up for. Okay, so for me this week, even though a lot of the cards I don't know which ones they relate to in the tarot, I don't know what order they are or what cards they even depict, The cards I'm going to pick are I can't even remember the name of them, the Greenwood Tarot. Several reasons. One, they were already falling off the shelf. When I walked over to get the cards, they were falling out. They were ready to be exposed. They were ready to be seen. They'd come out of their hiding cloth. Yeah, they were ready, like a bear coming out of the cave. They were ready to be seen. They're a deck that was bought by my brother. And my family, we're all very different, and put it this way, I'm the only one that reads the cards. My grandmother, yes, my family not so much, and we all do our own different things in different ways, and for me they're all very spiritual, but you know, I'm often seen as the only spiritual one in their eyes, and yet my brother bought me these cards from a charity shop. So for me there was a big, huge level of acceptance. So they need to be seen, they were ready to emerge, and acceptance here. They're also very rare. No matter how hard up I have been, I've never sold them, and they are worth a lot of money actually, because there's only, I think, about 5 or 6 of these left, and they're not in bad condition. I left them outside one day in the rain, so they're a little bit bowed, not in bad condition, and they have the book and everything with them, so they're worth quite a bit of money because they're the original deck. That feels important this week, to know how rare we are and what it is we offer, and let that be seen and finally accept it in ourselves. And that's where I feel like an aching in the crown, like desperate to come in now, this energy desperate to come in now. I can't help but notice the Guardian is at the bottom. I think it may be the devil in the pack, I don't know. What matters here is there is that need to protect that light. Okay, there is that need of feeling like we can't come out the cave yet, because there's all these skeletons of who we are and all these identities that we may not have been ready to face. And actually, yeah, it's time. They were ready to come out of the pack. They were ready to be seen. They were ready to be accepted. And the final thing, the thing I've been avoiding actually a lot of my life, these cards are very shamanic. So when it comes to cultural appropriation, and we all have our thing, right? We all have our, and I can logically explain, well, it doesn't mean that I'm, you know, indigenous. It doesn't mean da-da-da-da-da. What it means is I work with all different energies, and yes, absolutely. But it doesn't matter. I've always had a bit of a, you can't call yourself a shaman, whatever you want to call it. You can't call yourself that. It's cultural inappropriation, appropriation. It's, you know, totally disrespectful, and I've really struggled with it. It's time. It's time for us to be seen for who we actually are, and everything I offer, everything I practice is from that perspective, and it always has been. The very way that I see the world has always been this way, and it's that now. When I speak of our qualifications, I do not mean certification. Although you may find that comes up. You may find that actually you end up looking back at the certifications that you've had as a solid structure for what they actually are. But what I actually mean is the experience of life. What I actually mean is the depth of the training that you have had in your specialised field. That's really coming to light this week, and it's time to be seen for that. So going back to the original video, I'm a midwife. I will always be a midwife, whether that is to deliver life or to deliver a healing that you are trying to achieve, or a certain way of being, or a relationship. And the way that I do that is by helping people see what they've forgotten to see. So of course, this week, like us all, it's time for me to start seeing that in myself also. So with that in mind, really this week, looking at why we feel we may have needed to protect that light in us, why we feel as if we may not have been ready to come out of our caves, why we feel almost as if it's too big for us. So this morning I was walking my dog and he was carrying a stick, and it really reminded me of the Fool card. It reminded me of the unconscious karma, the unconscious will of the stick that the Fool carries with all the luggage that he doesn't know about in his bag. And this stick was huge for my dog. My dog's a wolfhound, so this stick was quite big. And I kept thinking, you know, is that not too big for you to carry? And actually all the time he kept it light. All the time he had fun with it. All the time he did it for himself. You know, it became part of the journey. Even it being too big became part of the journey. And that's what I want to get across this week. Even the feeling of it being too big brings us humility. It becomes part of the journey. So whatever we feel may have been too much, or we are unworthy of, or it's too big for us, is really going to come to light this week. And it is really about acknowledging and accepting the training that you've done in order to receive this, and then help others with it. Okay, so is there anything else? Yes, there is one more thing, and I promise I will look at the cards. However, this is how I work. I was really undecided about using this cup, really undecided about using it because it's like Iron Brew. You know, I'm not advertising Iron Brew, but yeah, it's Iron Brew. And everything for me is a sign. Everything for me is a way of communicating with the universe. And for me, I wouldn't have that any other way. It's like this fun language that I have with my higher self, or the earth, or source, or whatever. And it's shamanism. Yeah, it's shamanism. Everything is a message. For me, I was very uncertain about showing my strength. Iron Brew, yeah, it helps us be strong. I was very uncertain about advertising my own strength this week, and that feels like key. Advertise who you are. Stand proud in who you are and the strength that it's taken to walk your path, because that's your training. Okay, and the more you do that, the more that final curtain is going to come down. The more you do that, the more you're not going to reenact the scenes and the lessons and the drama, yes, the drama needed to show you just who you are, which is bloody amazing. So really recognizing that this week and showing it off, letting it be the cup that you drink of, okay, letting it be the nurture that you need, that abundance that you need, that source, really drinking from who you are. So with that in mind, my eyes are drawn to the dream catcher. What if we did all achieve our dreams? What then? Interesting energy. Okay. Oh, so that one's trying to get out two trying to get out, the Knight of Wands and the Page of Arrows. Really looking at our mind here, but also keeping it light, keeping our mind light, knowing that it is time to fly the nest. And I can take that on board a little bit myself, just as my earring's about to fall out. Interesting. Knowing that it is time to fly the nest, it is time to go out of our comfort zone here, and looking at the almost knee-jerk reactions in our mind as a result. So that guardian energy, that protective energy is there, and it's served us well. So when things get a bit uncomfortable, when we can feel as if we're being stretched, it's going to say it's not safe. You know, you're feeling uncomfortable. Okay, so just keeping it light, keeping the mind light here, and being curious with the opportunities and the source and spirit. So the Knight of Wands is normally quite, you know, forward-facing, gung-ho, but in this deck, and the shamanic energy, we recognize just because we feel the shift doesn't always mean that we're ready to act on that. So we can watch, yeah, with the fox, we can shape shift to our environment, we can look out for the bigger signs here, we can be sly, if you will, we can just observe what is going on, okay, with ourselves, and observing our own little sly mind that may just be trying to cause more endurance, because we have the Five of Pentacles here, we have the inside of that cave, look. So I think I'd rather just stay inside. You know, I want the change, but actually it's out there, it's thunder, it's lightning, it's frightening. I don't know, it's that song, the thunderbolts of lightning, it's Queen. that I can relate with. Yeah, it's very much about just when the time is right. Don't put any extra pressure on. Don't try and make it harder than it needs to be. If you don't feel safe, then it isn't safe, you know, and we can get out of our comfort zone, and that can be a very healthy place to be. A certain amount of stress can be a very healthy place to be. But if it's getting to the point where it's really uncomfortable, despite what we are made to believe, you know, you have to stretch, you have to do the work, no pain, no gain. You know, your body's not going to trust you if you keep doing that. It really isn't going to trust you when you do want to make those changes. It's going to be very fearful. And it's the difference between a pleasant birth and a traumatic delivery here this week. So really feeling when it's right for you and what relates to you. So you may think, oh, I'm so ready, I love the message in these cards, yes, it's time. You may think, actually, I'm that person in the cave and I don't feel as if it's ready, and oh no, that's going to cause more endurance for me. No, what's important here is about recognizing your own time, recognizing what really relates to you. How does it really feel? And honoring those feelings. The more you honor your feelings, the more you honor your own innate wisdom to know when it's time to deliver, when it's time to push, when it's time to create that change, the more change you're going to create, because you're going to believe in yourself. It's not going to come from anybody else. It's not going to be external. It's going to be internal. That Yeah, that is midwifery. That is the humbling part of owning what it is you are capable of. And this week, it's almost like we're all being asked to be our own midwives. Or are we? I think I may have just chucked that bit in myself. Being aware of that this week, and doing it with some humour. Okay, so I put that in because it was nice complete 10 of cups, happiness. Oh, that's marvellous. That brings it all full circle. A nice tidy neat box. And actually that came from me, that did not come from higher energy. So being very aware of that this week, it's not to say that it's right or wrong, it's not to say that it's less valid, but being aware where that timing comes from, and merging the two, bringing them together. Okay, so it's not to say that we're not all here to be our own midwives, but acknowledging that also fits my own narrative. So it's not to say that something isn't for you, but does it fit your narrative as well? So when we talk about being out of our comfort zone, okay, I feel uncomfortable, it's not right timing, and yeah, it needs to be right timing, but is it just not right timing because that fits your narrative? Really, really examining that this week. Okay, so can we actually look at the energies of the week and separate them? Probably not. They're all going to merge into one this week emotionally. I don't know what's going on with the full moon, but it might be in relation to that. It might not. We're back to those 10 of cups. We're back to those 10 of cups. So you saw me shuffling that. And it does really feel as if every emotion is going to flow into each other. And to try and separate what is going on for us this week is going to make it really quite difficult and lead to separation of ourselves. Because we have the Knight of Cups here, the salmon, swimming upstream. And for many that has been the case. We have swam against our emotional tides for too long. It is now about flowing with them, okay? And, flowing with them could be going against the grain of everyone else, okay? But is it not better to flow with your own emotions and go against those of others than to flow with everyone else and go against your own intuition? And that's the choices we're being given this week. And it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to feel as if we don't care. It's going to feel as if we're living in a different world or we're seeing a different show. We are, and it is about picking the drama this week. I'm just very aware of my dog, actually. Just excuse me. So my dog actually didn't need anything. He wanted to disrupt the energy, come out and go outside and ground himself. And that feels quite important, to recognise that when we don't quite fit into someone's drama, it does disrupt the energy, and that can make it quite antagonistic. So in those moments, literally go outside, get into nature, really ground yourself. And do you know what? I was going to pick up I am going to. There's indecisions there. There's indecisions there of the symbolism this week. There's indecisions there of, the language that we use, particularly love language this week. There's indecisions there of how we communicate with our higher self. And it's that needs to be recognised. And once that's been recognised this week, we are able to break things down a little bit more. Physically, card just flew out. We have the 7 of Cups. Okay, so really recognizing, and the Knight of Pentacles underneath, really recognizing where we've separated off our own language here, where we've made things a little bit more enduring than perhaps they need to be emotionally, by seeing everything as separate. That has once helped us to ground. It still has that potential of that, provided we bring it all together, provided we realize that we are the ones that are carrying these emotions. So not to be consumed by the emotions this week, to acknowledge them, to feel them, to see them for sometimes the illusion that they are, and the shadow aspect most definitely within us, but know that they are all part of us. That acceptance, guys, know that they are all part of us. Even my dog that wants to disrupt the energy and make it about him, they are all part of us. Okay, so with that in mind, energies this week and how to best navigate them. Right, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, overall. So at the bottom of the pack we have the Chariot, and when I was shuffling the cards, I really felt like it didn't matter how much more I shuffled them, that it was more important to relay the message. That feels like key. Relay the message this week. What is trying to be put across here. It doesn't matter how many different angles we see things from. It doesn't matter how many emotions we feel. What's the underlying message here? And it's going to take some real deep digging, okay, or not, as the case may be. You may feel as if you've done a lot of work and you recognize that movement now required immediately, okay. And then the courage comes from taking that direct direction rather than rather than skirting the issue this week. So it is a week of change. We have the Tower card at the bottom of the pack here. And this is where I feel my head going a little bit muzzy. It's a little bit like the changes we thought, and this is where I'm playing with my earring that's now missing. Yes, what are we not hearing here? So the changes that we thought were going to be the monumental shifts aren't actually going to be the ones. It's the underlying foundation here that needs shifting. It's the underlying acknowledgement of what has actually shifted, changed, moved, evolved. Trying to think of a word. Evolved. Okay, it's that's going to bring about the biggest changes this week. So quick slurp of my tea. So on the Monday today we have the Hierophant, and I really felt that today in the talk. I really felt that. I really felt, like the characters here listening to a wonderful talk about energy seeing and really having the keys to our own healing here, and it was absolutely profound. And then, oh my God, the tables turned and everyone's looking at me and I'm here. So, oh wow. Okay, so this week, really seeing that what is being reflected back to you is also an opportunity to reflect that back to others. So, the wisdom that was reflected back today, the elder type energy that was reflected back, the respect, the humility that was being reflected to me today, also receiving that. Now it really feels like key that how else are we going to learn the lessons if we do not embody what we have discovered? Really, really key here. And then just being that. I say just, but yeah, just being what we have discovered is going to help what's it going to help? Anything. It's going to help it all. There's a real empty energy there when we actually become who it is we were here to become. When we actually stand in our own potential, there's no drama. There's no what do we fill the gaps with? Hold space with that. Allow yourself to create with that. Gestate that potential this week, because on the Tuesday, if we can do that, we have the Empress. Okay, now the Empress is always creating, but she's always gestating as well, because she recognizes in the very things that she creates, she is also learning about what she now needs. She is also learning about what she is capable of. And it's that constant flow, which we cannot get if we keep delivering the same thing. We cannot get that. All we're going to be delivering is that one lesson. Okay, now that's not easy. It's not easy, and it doesn't matter how many times we say it is. And yes, we can look at it from a perspective of energy and spirituality and everything. And yes, in its simplest form, it's incredibly easy. The way to shift energy is acceptance and love. The way to heal is acceptance and love. For some people, that love has become a shield, either against it or holding it in. And this week, really, really looking at that. What do I need to love myself? What do I need to receive the love that I am this week? Because it's that that's really going to help any deliveries or potentials of them. On the Wednesday, we have the Knight of Wands again. Now, in this deck, in the physical, more less shamanic type energy, rather than sitting and waiting, what's happening here is action. Okay, so really being aware of the potential, bringing it in, and then actually acting on it. That's what's going to create different lessons here, because this card is actually facing the when I lay it down. I was going to say lay him down. When I lay it down, this card is facing the Empress, the Hierophant, the Tower, and the Chariot. So it's all actions, baby. It's all action stations and the actions that you put in place, and really looking at what actions are to you. Act. What does that mean to you? So reflection can still be an action. Pausing can still be an action. Action is an action. So really recognizing this week what that means for you. Okay, what worked for you, what doesn't work for you, and if it didn't work, don't take it forward. If it didn't work, okay, it's like the analogy of the dog chasing its tail being a sign of insanity. If it didn't work, it didn't work. Okay, and sometimes we don't always know why. Sometimes we never get to the bottom of the answer of it all. And sometimes we can put reasons there, and I can just imagine spirit thinking, well, it just wasn't for you, that's all. The counselling course, it could end up being, no, it's not. You're really acknowledging what we know. And in this moment in time, being okay with that. Trusting that, really trusting your ability to create from the lessons of change that you've been through, and letting that really move your direction this week. Because right behind that, if we can get our actions on board with the universe, we can also get our thoughts on board with the universe and take all those ideas that we've had and actually put them into something. And it's almost like I'm looking at the end of the week becoming the beginning of the week, and there's it's not an infinite, it's a linear energy here in each moment, and it's like a backwards forwards type energy. So it's a real shaft karmic, I've done that's what's being reflected, I've done that, and really almost having to bat out of the court what isn't relevant to us anymore this week is going to be key. How do we do that? Appreciate on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or throughout the week actually, but definitely on the Saturday and the 4th month as we go into April. Really, really, really appreciating the gap, the pause. So in the 4 of Cups, this character is looking at the 3 of Cups. It's looking at all the deliveries that there's been, all the celebrations that there's been, and even though they know it's not enough to sustain them anymore, it's all they have to measure it against. It's all they have to remember what it felt like to achieve something that they wanted, or, be open to love or create. And, we can get so caught up in our cycles, not because they're good or bad, let's take that out of the equation, but because they're all we know. And they can be disempowering, they can be disenchanting, they can keep us, really quite limited. The 4, it can be a solid foundation, but it can also box us in. If we can have patience with that, if we can have patience of knowing actually that was then, I'm really grateful, but it's not relevant to me anymore, and I would like something a little bit more, a little bit different, something that is going to stretch me out of my comfort zone because I want change. That's when we see the gift that is waiting for us from the very cup that we're drinking. So whatever you've gained throughout this journey, mine has been strength. Whatever you have gained throughout this journey, in particular over the last 3 years, you could say, what is there to celebrate? Really taking that forward now. Because the lessons aren't enough. Quite rightfully so, they're not enough anymore. It's almost like augmented labour, like being induced, and it makes it long, drawn out, painful and out of our control when it's lessons that are outside of us, right? Or that we believe are outside of us. And that's something to take on board as well. How often we believe these lessons are almost like a punishment or being given to us by others or source, or, really looking at maybe we're bringing them in to help, keep delivering something different. Maybe we're bringing them in to help really shift things and change things, and looking at where we're doing that from, because on the Saturday we have the 6 of Pentacles. How balanced are we? How in harmony are we? And this is a physical card. So with our body, our diet, our, getting out into nature, our physical relationships, do we lord money over people? Do we lord our gifts over people? Do we share them willingly? Do we end up begging people for time? Really, really looking at the relationship in our life with others, but also with ourselves and with the earth this week. Really taking time for that this week is going to be the biggest shift, because on the Sunday again we have the 4 of Swords here, and it is an opportunity to take some rest, to let that heartbreak again be hung up on the wall like a medal, to recognize we are more than what we have survived. Yeah, it's the end of the show, man. Although now I hear the show must go on, and it must go on to something different. I love that Freddie Mercury's coming through, a great favourite of my mother's. So a double-edged sword here of different energies, which is what I feel this week as well. Double-edged sword here, but again, all that matters is the underlying message. Okay, so thunderbolts of lightning, very frightening, but the show must go on. So it's not to say that it isn't scary. It's not to downplay what you're going through. It's not to, suggest that you get over it and I can't remember the saying, but, courage doesn't mean that we're not frightened of something. It means that we continue anyway, and that's a really poor expression of it myself. And there is a phrase out there, but I'll add it to the thing. It's not about not being frightened. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But then how would we gain courage? If we're not frightened, then we don't need courage. We don't gain courage. If we're trying to look at abundance and we're absolutely loaded and we have everything that we want, well, that's not going to be financial abundance. So really recognizing this week that it is the very things that we haven't had, that we've wanted, that have ultimately give us what we needed. Okay, now that could cause a few knee-jerk reactions or not, as the case may be, but really sitting with that. So I'm sitting with that thinking, gosh, I hope people don't think I'm downplaying what they've been through, and that is not what I mean. What I mean is, as my mother would say, you're better than that. There's more to you than one act. There's more to you than what you've survived. Not that that isn't enough, but there's so much to you. And this week really feels like an opportunity to see that, to accept that, to receive that if we want to change things. So what do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 major arcanas, all smack bam at the beginning of the week. Interesting week. So by the Thursday, things will start to come down to a more grounded physical energy. In that we will be asked, what are we going to do about it? So we've had this insight, we've had that insight. We know that we want to move. We know we want things to change. We know that there's some big monumental shifts occurring here and that we've received an awful lot of lessons and experience. And yeah, this is what we want to create. The universe has your back. There's 4 major arcanas here, and that's a nice solid foundation. However, if you're not ready, if you doubt yourself, that solid foundation is going to feel like a trap. It's going to feel like you want to move but you don't know how, that you want changes but you're almost begging the universe to do it and then frightened that it's going to happen. You know, that all of a sudden synchronicity, karma, all becomes dogmatic. And what happens there is we lose our connection with our ability to create with the creator. We lose our connection with the earth. We lose our connection. We go from a place of abundance to scarcity, a place of joy to fear. So recognizing that's part of the process, but deciding what part of the coin you want to be on this week is really, really key. We then have one wand card, and it's the Knight of Wands here, and it does feel like a time to act. Yeah, that's all I need to say. It does feel like a time to act, actually. It does feel like the Hanged Man's underneath and the Ten of Wands. Seeing things from so many different perspectives has been wonderful. That will give us 5 major arcana. It's been a real pivotal point of change. However, as we lead into Easter, it is again about recognizing that the enlightenment comes from how we apply it to life. The enlightenment comes from not just seeing things from all different perspectives, especially spiritual this week, but putting them into practice. Really looking at the impact that that's taking on our physical bodies. Okay, really looking at, I want to say the word charge. I'm really looking at our energy, the energetic charge behind things. And that almost feels as if it's lacking. I feel like that's not enough. How can that be enough? Oh, if we could actually feel our spirit. Remember, we are source, God, whatever you want to call it, in such a small condensed package. So imagine that energy that's actually within us. It's time for us to see that and respect that as well. Because what happens when we see it? Oh, yes, I can have it all. I can do it all. And no one's saying that we can't. But respect the process. Keep the sacredness here. Find a timing that works for you, that is fun, joyful, that doesn't have to be as if the rug is pulled out from under you, that doesn't have to come from burnout. We have learned enough from that. This week we have really learned, what happens when we don't quite put every aspect of our well-being into consideration. We then have 2 sword cards. So there is that balance there, but we have the Knight of Swords and the Four of Swords. So there is that almost feeling torn, that double-edged sword between, I've got all these ideas and I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I also need to rest. That is going to come down to the individual, and that is going to come down to recognizing all the pain. I was going to say unnecessary, but that's my judgment. All the pain that has been caused by not keeping that in balance, by not listening to your own needs, by letting the mind take over, by recognizing what's a trauma response. where am I acting from here? Actually, it's coming from all these, oh, you know, I don't feel good enough, or if I don't do X, Y, and Z, this is going to happen, and da-da. Okay, so where is this action coming from mentally? And taking time to sit with that this week in order to restore that balance. Okay, we then have 1 cup card, and you know, it's the 4 of cups, but it is 1 cup card. So think of that Ace of Cups here, and that feels like key this week. Rather than thinking of it being the 4, rather than thinking about routine, or oh, I'm bored, or God, I feel fenced in, or oh, I feel really stable or content. Let's take it 1 step higher, and actually, instead of thinking about what we want to create, think about the 1 cup. Where are we creating from? What is our connection here? Are we creating because we're bored? And there's no judgment there, you know. Pick up a pen and paper and draw and doodle and try and bring in the potential and everything else. But that potential increases when you take time to recognize where it is you're actually creating from. Because what happens then is you align with your emotional energy. So if you're feeling tired, and you're a little bit, oh, I need a bit of chance to deep rest, or, you know, just I'm not that happy with what's going on in my life anymore, I want some more. So if you suddenly start creating from there without looking at how you might feel about that, the chances are you're going to end up creating the same thing. So just respecting yourself for the vessel that you are, okay, and taking time out from there. We then have 1 pentacle card, which is the 6 of Pentacles. But again, bringing it back to that 1 pentacle card, that beginning here, that new start here of really looking at what we give and what we receive, and what we give from, what energy we're giving from and what we're receiving from, and the underlying physical seed that is being planted as a result. Is there anything else on that? I'm going to pick 18 minutes, and I think we're about 20 minutes before then. I'm going to pick 1 Mayan card. So it turns out I'm going to use all the energies that I planned or couldn't decide between, which feels quite poignant, knowing that actually we're going to use it all anyway. We're going to use it all. Okay, so it's only us that really needs that order to try and make some kind of logical sense out of it, but we're going to use it all. Everything that we've been given, everything we've connected to, we're going to use it all. Okay, or use it all. If you're not using it all, then it's time. Okay, it's time to really step into all aspects of yourself. Okay, so 1 card. Now I'm thinking 1 card for what? 1 card for what? What do I want to know? What do I know? Let's get out of our head. What does the universe want us to know? So we have the Queen of Pentacles here and the 10 of Wands. And when I said what does the universe want us to, and then we have the Queen of Swords underneath and the 4 of Swords again. So what I really felt when I asked what does the universe want us to know, I just felt the most overwhelming love and the most overwhelming need to appreciate ourselves, to take care of ourselves, so I'm not surprised to see the 10 of Wands here. Now there's something in this. There's something in, you know, all this hard work and the way that we have been and the protection that it's give us. And I don't just mean in our homes or the energy around us. I mean our arms crossed. Okay, and it has worked. It has worked. But there's a big difference between grounding and protection and the energy behind it. There's a big difference between really connecting to who you are, really connecting to the earth and shutting off to it. And it feels as if it's that we're being asked to take to the next level. We're being asked to really nurture our physical body, being asked to really nurture our physical connection in a way that doesn't mean we shut ourselves off anymore. That doesn't mean that we have to go into retreat because it's all become a bit too much. If we were to really stand in our power and really stand in who we are, we wouldn't need to protect ourselves, okay, because we would be in this most incredible connected energy. And it really feels like nurturing anything that may be preventing you from that this week with respect and gratitude, but now honouring that it's time to let that go. For which we have the 4 of Pentacles underneath and the 5 of Pentacles and the 6 of Pentacles. Okay, but it's that one. Okay, and the Hierophant again. So it's going to be a process, and it's going to be a process that will only ever be recognised by realising what it is you need to let go of, and that's going to be individual for everybody. But knowing that awareness itself helps to initiate that release. So sometimes we can get really caught up in what it is we need to let go of, and I need to heal this, I need to shift this, I need to fix this. Actually, awareness of what works for you and what doesn't work for you with no judgment is what's going to shift everything this week, you know. And yes, it's going to be a work in progress. Yes, a love in progress, a labour of love this week. And it is very much about recognising what you need for that. Underneath, I've picked one last card, and underneath it is 5, 10, 15, 20. 20. My mind's gone completely blank now. It is judgment, isn't it? No, that's 21. Interesting that I think that it's judgment, and all the time I think that it's judgment, my mind has just completely thrown itself. So 17, 18 is the moon, 19 is the star. It is judgment. Okay, so this week, recognising that no matter how many different angles something has, it's a judgment. It's a judgment on yourself, it's a judgment on another, it's a judgment on your own potential here. So really looking at it from that perspective this week is going to be key, because when we do that, we can then put the 8 of Jades back into the pack, 6, 7, 8, and we have strength underneath. Yeah, we can have the strength and the courage to do the work that is needed on ourselves. And remember, courage doesn't come by not being frightened. It comes by facing our fears. And one of the biggest fears we have isn't about our shadow. I think it's Marianne Williamson, don't quote me on that, but it is actually standing in who we are and the very light that we came here to be. So really looking at that this week, and I'm going to go and put my teeth back in. Have the most incredible week, and I hope and pray that you truly see how wonderful you are. Take care.